Oh, there we go. I hope I will not confuse the buttons. Okay, so thank you for the nice introduction. Welcome to today's presentation. It is called Spaghetti Agiliatore. I'm not a linguist, but I found this title cool enough to be a title for the presentation on the conference. So as you might guess, I didn't know that I can speak in Polish, by the way. But anyway, so as you might guess, I'll be talking about uh, spaghetti, because we're on the Agile conference, right? So let's talk about food. But I'll talk about the spaghetti, not in the sense that you may directly think of. So I will not review any of the work or recipes prepared by some popular Polish chefs. I was, it actually happened during the Christmas break, so I was thinking, it was time off, so I was thinking about organization, because what else can I think of during the Christmas break? So, and I was inspired by something that is known to the engineering and to the development community, something that is called spaghetti code, right? So probably some of you who develop some code are familiar with the term. So maybe a quick summary what that is in few words. So it can be characterized by the three aspects. So this is something that it's difficult to understand, maintain, and extend due to multiple factors, but probably the most important is the one that the source code looks like a spaghetti when you mix pasta with everything else, right? So it's horrible. The other aspect is that everyone considered this is as a bad practice, right? But we know it happens all the time that we fall into bad practices every single day. So it's no difference within the code. And the third one is that is recommended. Well, we should avoid it, but check the previous one, right? So how does it link to any agile stuff and to the organizational? So I started to think, how can I simplify this simple definitions? How can I simplify it even more? So I came up with this flow. So to prove my point, of course, right? That's my privilege. So if something is difficult to understand, probably the next step is that it starts to be confusing, misleading, because we don't fully understand what's happening. So we are confused, right? So we don't know what happens. And the final step of this flow is if we start making changes or if we start doing things with it, not knowing what has really happened, we end up with some conflicting and non-working situation. But probably before we jump into the consuming our spaghettis, let's maybe answer the important question. So who am I and what am I doing here? I was briefly introduced, so I'll also make a comments on my experience, right? So I'm obviously not a Spider-Man, right? So that's not who I am. So my name is Janek Mitkowski. As I was introduced, I was born, raised, and educated here in Krakow. So for everyone, first time in Krakow, happy to see you. I hope you'll have a chance to visit and sightseeing. Weather is not perfect, but still, highly recommend it. So, in fact, I've been working in the industry for 19 years. That sounds old, yeah. So I was the blue one, the blue card, right? So I was born 1980, right? So, and what is important to know during this lecture, so with that multiple roles, in 2016, I joined what I call the dark side. So I wanted to change, so lean towards some managerial, all those soft stuff in the organization. So I became the team manager. The thing that I didn't want to do was a product owner. I wanted to be a manager, but they told me you'll be the product owner. Oh, okay. So what happened next is that 2019, I'm actually working as this product owner, and here are some numbers. So two important things. First, there will be a disclaimer. I'll be talking about my observation my perspective, my own opinion. I haven't read it in any book. This is something that I've experienced. I've been in some of the situation. I've seen it. I've experienced it. Please keep that in mind because you might have totally different experience. I'm not here to teach you, preach you, saying anything that I'm gonna to say, this is the right way to do. No, you may totally disagree with me, and that's perfectly fine. That's actually what is expected from that lecture, right? I'll be complaining a little bit, okay? So please keep in mind, we shouldn't let the positives overshadow the negatives, okay? So remember about that. And with all of that, you can either love me or hate me, right? So pick, you'll have a chance to pick. Second important thing, I thought I would be the first one to use it, but there's a competition. So for everyone who will listen carefully and watch the slides, I've put some Easter eggs into the presentation. So anyone who will identify what they were about will get the prize. I have two prizes, so there's also a runner-up prize. So pay attention. I can say we've seen one already, and the only tip I can give you, it's related to music. So stay tuned. Okay, so let's start preparing our spaghetti. So we need some ingredients. So let's build the context and the case. So let's consider we have this corporate, let's say a company, 30, 40 plus years on the market. They have been running successful software development projects. They've sold tons of products. So they are on the market, right? Well-established position, well-established brand. Seems to be perfect, right? So the next thing we know about this company, so after 30 plus, 40 plus years, probably this organization already have some well-defined, well-known, most of you are from, let's say, not the startup, right? So we had some exercise before. So you are probably familiar with this, right? So Krakow stuff, so all sorts of, all level of management and so on, right? And all of a sudden, one day, one of the executives says, "Okay, we need to change something. So today is Wednesday. So let's assume starting Monday, our engineering departments are transitioning. We are going agile, right? All the development teams are asked to follow the Scrum. It's gonna be fine, right? So round of applause. Move on. Not really, right? So what that means to the organization is, in fact, that we somehow need to put the right side of the picture. So our well-established, well-known hierarchy, the way we work, into something new that Scrum defines. So there's a lot of people working actually here on this. Oh, I said actually. And there are a lot of people working here. Only two roles defined: Scrum Master and Product Owner. So is there anything that can go wrong if we start doing that change? So to learn about it, let's check our menu and see what happens. So I'll have to look. Oh, I have it here. So because I came up with the names that I cannot even memorize, so I'll try to talk them. So the first one is that's called Spaghetti Scrum Master. Okay. So this is the combination of the two roles. Development tester, whatever person it's in the team. So let's call it like the general Scrum team member plus the Scrum Master. That's probably fully acceptable. It was in the book. That is something that can be done, right? So probably the least controversial, nothing maybe to say, to raise any of you eyebrows. So it's innocent. That's fine. Probably we've been through that. I personally view it as a perfect grow potential, in the sense I've been doing this stuff while I was preparing to transition to this managerial role. So I was a Scrum Master in the team for a single project. It was roughly about 9-10 months. It was, and I find it really important and really good experience for somebody who wants to transition from the purely engineering work, to learn interacting with people, right, solving conflicts, and so on, right? So to expose himself to some other aspects, not only interacting with a code, but maybe some other human beings. Okay, so I found it really useful, and but when we think of basically every role, but this one in particular, if you use it in this context, that at some point something that I call decision day, but I was thinking about before I step into, I will call it a role monster. Okay, so what is the role monster instead of decision day? This is something that will start eat your time. One of the roles will start eating your time over the other. So it may happen here. And I think the one thing that I haven't put in any bullets here, but worth mentioning in that role, I think that everything, and I've seen it, it works perfectly fine, this combination, right? So I won't complain about it. It works perfectly fine if it's a matter of my own choice, right? So I've decided that I will do this, and I kind of accept it, whether it's timely or I will just do it because I like to do it, and I can manage those two roles efficiently. I think the major threat here is, and I've seen it multiple times, is when somebody is forced to do it. So we are saying, like our executive said, okay, every development team should go Scrum. So by default, everyone, so we need a Scrum Master, product owner, and so on, right? So who wants to be a Scrum Master in the team? And everyone goes, oh, no, Janek, you are hiding behind it. So who, right? So it's not gonna work. I've seen it. I've been in the teams that nobody wanted to be a Scrum Master. Nobody. There was no chance that we can have somebody from outside. Nobody, right? So that's a threat. So the next one, that's the main course. I call it, I'm sorry, right? Scrum Master Managerial. Okay, so what is this all about? So this spaghetti is about combining the role. I intentionally called it supervisor. I will explain why. Supervisor, team people manager, right? Plus the Scrum Master role. So Scrum Master, we all kind of feel it, what it's about. What's wrong with this, with the second role? Supervisor, people manager. So I defined this role as somebody who I directly report. This is somebody who decides on my raise, accepts my holidays, right, day offs, and so on. On the other hand, this is somebody acting as a manager, so he needs to take care of my well-being, right, of my career growth, and so on and so on. So that's kind of, because we can name the roles any way we want, right? So this is how I perceive this. So basically, at first sight, it may look as a perfect match. Why? Because I find both roles focused on the people, on the person, but slightly in different contexts. I would also perceive a supervisor as a role that has an execution power, while the Scrum Master role, it's more like consultant, advisor role, without this execution in the context of even the Polish law, right? We in the Polish law, there is something like this business order. This is like polecenie służbowe, right? For the ones who speak Polish, right? So this is something that the supervisor can do and tell you. Of course, there are some constraints, right? But you need to do this and that. No objection, right? Because there are consequences. So when we start thinking about it, so I came to the conclusion that there is a conflict of interest in that roles, right? So if that's combined within the one head, you start be conflicting. So one of the examples that I wanted to share is, let's assume that that somebody is underperforming. Let's call it this way, right? And Scrum Master, who is focused on the team efficiency, starts asking questions, maybe figuring out what's happening, maybe we should change something, maybe there's some training needed, whatever, right? Whatever comes to the Scrum Master's mind. But on the other hand, manager knows that person, has been doing one-on-ones, and he knows or she knows that is temporary because somebody has some personal difficulties, I know, sick kids or something bad happened in the personal life, but it seems to be temporary, and the manager fully accept the situation because it will go away, I don't know, within the month, right? So even as I describe it, it's probably better when that kind of conflicts are being broken down and arranged by the two separate people that can talk this through, and we shouldn't put it in a single head. What is more, what I observed that the shared roles, and this one as well, are confusing for the outside world, outside stakeholders, and even within the team, especially in this context when we have somebody with the executive right and somebody in the advisor role. So if I'm running a team meeting and I'm saying, okay, let's do it, maybe retrospective should be different, let's arrange it in a different form, and I say what the form is, and so what? With every sentence they say I should, okay, right now I'm saying this as a Scrum Master. Or the next sentence, okay, this is, I'm saying it as your supervisor, right? So with that, I would be confused. So is this Scrum Master talking to me that he's asking us and proposing maybe a change to a retrospective? Or it's a manager who's saying, no, you need to do it this way, and so on. Also, we need to remember that in Poland, maybe there will be some people, especially the blue ones, that may perceive that you do not confront and you don't argue with your supervisor, right? Whatever that person says, it's the right thing to do. So that's worth keeping in mind. And we should remember that day only has 24 hours. The next one that I've prepared is, oh, that's even harder. That's Mana Product Owner, spaghetti. I will display them as they are because they are really similar to the previous one. But what is the difference? The difference is that for me the conflict here is just straightforward. Why? Scrum Master, I'm sorry, supervisor, again, focused on people, while the product owner is focused on something else, on the product. I even say it boldly, but please don't get me wrong. Product owners don't need to care about people in the sense of, you know, this hierarchy, right? The primary objective and focus is to build the most value into the product. They are using the team. They are working with the teams that are being managed by the managers. So here, I can show you on my example, and there were the rough times, right? Rough times. Imagine the planning. So I was in the team that I was leading, so I was the supervisor. I was 2016, right? They told me, you're the product owner. We didn't have a Scrum Master because nobody wanted to be a Scrum Master in the team. Wow, there's anything better than that? I could do anything with the team. And what happened during the planning? We roughly knew what was our capacity. So planning, plan the task, going on. Hey, Janek, we reached our capacity. What? Come on, guys, there are like 2-3 tasks. You can do it. Come on, right? So they were like, okay, yeah, he's pushing us, so well. So the end was, I talked about it 2 years ago when I was talking about how I transitioned, how I changed my mindset. I started looking differently on the things. The end result was we were always late with everything. And I was pushing them. And I'm open about it, right? And that was extremely bad. So, and why it happened? Because there was nobody who could stop me. I was their supervisor. I was the product owner. There was no Scrum Master. So I was like, you know, I was the king, right? We mentioned about the king and queens here. So it's good to have the balance. And again, right? Confusing. That's confusing, right? So people didn't know who am I, what am I, was like, what was the context of some of the comments that I made. And what happened is, I'll jump into this role monster. So that happened to me. So this role monster started to eat it and eat it and eat it. I can say I was 90% focused on product, 10% on people. Not a good combination. So I think it's worth keeping in mind that this monster will start eat some of it. I'll have some aftertaste to discuss. So my general comments and observation is that sharing roles is generally not the best idea. I put to briefly point you out to some different roles. Maybe they extend, they are not related directly to Scrum, but they can happen, especially when there's like more people from the corporate environment. That may happen for you and in the place when you work. Supervisor, so we already know the supervisor definition, the project lead. So who's the project lead? So we can call it project manager, right? So somebody that is being asked to run the project, all this nice waterfall style of project. We have a schedule, we have some teams involved, we need to balance it. There's some interaction and so on. So what happened in this case is the role monster happened. So the guy who was in that role, and I was working with the team that guy was leading, he was asked to run the project. It was a short one, so 3 months, not a lot of them, but he was so dedicated to do so. He was 120% dedicated to be a project leader, and the result was the team saw the guy early morning. I saw him maybe afternoon when we had some meetings where we were discussing what happens in the project when I was invited, but the guy started to respond to emails, stopped responding to emails. He stopped responding to all the chat messengers stuff that we have in the company, and I believe after 3 weeks, when finally he was asked, "Hey, maybe when is our next team meeting?" Right? So, and he was asked about it, and his answer was, "Call me. You want me to accept your holidays? Call me. I won't read your emails." He was so dedicated to it. So this project role ate his supervisor and taking care of the team. Not a good experience. I know it from the guys who were there. The other one, this is a new one, so I don't have like a lot of comments here, but I wanted to put it here because I found it interesting. So what happened here? So the technical architect, so there's somebody has some wider perspective on the product or some dependency and so on, and the product owner role. So what happened in this case, again, it appears that the role monster starts to happening because how it was presented by one of his peers, that he asked the guy who has this shared roles, okay, so man, what are you doing? What your team is doing? Because probably we will have some interaction with you. So what's your plan for this sprint and what you have planned for the next one? And the guy was, I have no freaking clue what the guys are doing, right? I'm focused on this architectural stuff for this new feature that we are working. Whoa, that's sounds great. So be careful, right? Be careful. I put it here because for me, that was I was really like, maybe not stressed, but overwhelmed by the some of the actions and the activities that I had with the shared role. Nowadays, after the pandemic and the COVID, I believe these topics are becoming more and more visible. So I think that when we do not keep the balance and we start pushing too hard, so we'll be lost, right? So please keep that in mind. And what I also observed, that's probably because of this confusion thing and this role monster that happens. What I observed, that the only people that lose and are affected by that is the team that you are working in or with, right? So please keep that in mind. So I believe that's time to wrap it up really quickly. So I'll have another set of general comments. So I believe that any changes in general, and especially when you plan it in terms of any roles that you need to align, whatever the structure, whenever you're introducing new stuff, new process in the organization. So every change is challenging, right? That's nothing new. Sometimes I understand it. We have no other options, right? We are being asked to do it. But still, I think there is a good way to do it in the sense that we should keep the balance of it. Even if we are asked, okay, Janek, you need to organize it. You need to find a Scrum Master. You need to find the right people. I think there's the best method to do it is by feedback. Why? Probably when you're introducing something new, you already have within the team or organization people who are experienced, and you don't pick those people randomly, I would say. Right? So maybe it's before you make the change, maybe it's good to talk with them, listen what they think about it, and then help you pick the right options and make the right decision. So probably this is something to explore. And maybe one thing here also to mention is that we often end up with that situation because we didn't have the courage, chance, or any other possibility to say no, right? Maybe that's because of maybe some culture that we always do what our boss is telling us to do. But if you are in that situation, if you are having or you're dealing with the situation that you are having shared roles, and you don't feel it right, maybe it's a good time to think about it, talk to your managers, talk this through, and maybe you will find a solution to make your life easier and better in the environment. Because with every change and everything that we do in the organization, probably our primary goal is to have our spaghetti dente, not al dente. With that, thank you.